This is the third video about residence permits in Turkey, answering questions and discussing various situations related to obtaining and using them. The earlier two videos are available in the playlist via this link, and we will continue this series, so make sure to subscribe to the channel for updates. In today's video, we will discuss the potential for employment and business operations in Turkey while holding a residence permit and how this can lead to acquiring Turkish citizenship. This is reliable, verified info by experts with 25 years in Turkey. Check the description below for timestamps to navigate the video topics easily. Ask your questions in the comments, and we will reply. So, popular questions about residence permits Part 3. An expert with 25 years of experience answers. His answers reflect the Tolerance Agency's expertise on Turkish laws and their application. Many newcomers are understandably curious about working in Turkey. Does a residence permit offer any rights to work?
Holding a regular residence visa, whether it's short-term, tourist, or based on property, does not allow you to work in Turkey. In order to work legally in the country, it is necessary to acquire a work permit known as çalışma, which is handled separately. When do you need a work permit? A work permit is required when you are employed. Your prospective employer in Turkey needs to submit an application for a work permit for you via the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. After approval, you get a work visa that goes with the work permit in Turkey, plus a residence permit and work rights. Applying on your own without employer involvement is very difficult. This occurs only in rare cases for specific professions. If you resign, you will either need to obtain a new permit or residence permit or leave the country. Turkish legislation allows foreign citizens to establish and own commercial enterprises. However, if you plan to actively engage in the company or be its director, you are also required to obtain a work permit. You do not need a work permit only if you are working online for a foreign company or if you own a Turkish business. However, you are not actively involved in its operations and do not occupy any official roles within it. Remember, there are key restrictions in many business fields. There must be a certain number of local employees for each foreign worker, typically 5 Turks for every foreigner. The employer must also prove that a Turkish citizen cannot fill the vacancy or that there are other reasons to invite a foreign specialist. If a foreigner works in Turkey without the proper permit, fines and deportations may occur for the worker, as well as penalties for the employer who hired them without permission.
Can I start a business in Turkey if I have a residence permit?
Yes, you can start a business in Turkey with a residence permit, but this does not automatically grant you the right to work in that business. Here's how it works. Just having a short-term residence permit, like one for real estate or tourism, provides you with legal status in Turkey, making it easier to interact with government bodies and banks. For company registration and opening a bank account, a Turkish tax number and a notarized passport are sufficient. Formally, you can register a business without a residence permit, but having one makes it much easier and more comfortable, especially for confirming your address and so on. According to Turkish law, a foreigner is permitted to act as a founder, meaning that, as an owner or co-founder in a Turkish firm, and they can opt for any suitable legal entity type, such as an LLC, joint stock company, or sole proprietorship. Registering a company as a foreigner is easy and accessible. If you are a founder and owner but do not work in the company as an employee, are not a director, do not draw a salary, and do not enter into an employment contract with yourself, then a work permit is not formally required. However, once you begin to take on management roles, like a director, general director, accountant, etc., and begin to earn income in Turkey, you are classified as someone who must obtain a work residence permit. Çalışma izni. To manage your business legally as a director or to work within it, you must secure a work permit. A specific ratio of Turkish employees is required, typically 5 Turkish workers for each foreigner or a designated amount of capital. It all relies on the current rules. If your company is entirely new, you can receive a work permit for a limited time, but after a period, like 6 months, you must provide confirmation that the necessary number of Turkish citizens has been hired or that other requirements have been fulfilled. You may also need additional licenses or professional certificates. Your company will need to pay taxes, and you will require an accountant to set up the firm and manage financial reporting. Overall, A foreigner can open a business and register a company in Turkey without a work permit, including with a short-term residence permit for real estate, tourist visa, etc. However, working even in your own company, receiving a salary, and performing executive functions without a work permit is illegal. A residence permit makes many administrative and daily matters easier, but it does not remove the requirement for an official work permit if you plan to actually work in Turkey. Tolerance Company assists its clients with starting a business in Turkey if you purchase real estate with us. We have extensive experience in providing such services.
Can I travel abroad with a Turkish residence permit?
A Turkish residence permit grants you the right to live in Turkey and return freely after leaving, but it does not provide automatic visa-free travel to other countries. For international trips, they consider the traveler's citizenship and foreign passport. A residence permit is like a visa that lets you stay in the country for a certain duration. If you have a residence permit, you can enter and leave the country freely while it's valid. Visa-free travel is determined by your citizenship, not by holding a residence permit in a country. In border crossings, the decisive factors are your citizenship and the visa treaties in place between your country and the destination. Most people, even those with a Turkish or any other residence permit, will need to obtain visas to enter other countries. However, having a Turkish residence permit allows you to apply for visas to other countries at visa centers in Turkey, embassies, or consulates.
Can I receive Turkish citizenship after my residence permit?
Yes, having a valid residence permit in Turkey can eventually lead to citizenship, but not automatically. This process is called naturalization. You need to live in Turkey with a continuous residence permit for at least 5 years legally, like with a permit from buying property. I'll talk about the details of this residence permit for citizenship a little later. Now, let's talk about the general rules. You must not be outside Turkey for more than a certain time during the 5 years with a residence permit, usually about 6 months, but every situation can be looked at individually. You must show proof of stable income or enough financial resources. You must prove you know Turkish at a minimum conversational level. Usually, this is evaluated in an interview, not a test. Good references are needed, meaning no threats to national security, serious offenses, etc. This route to citizenship is available only to the owner of the residence permit based on real estate. It does not apply to their relatives or children. But many other residence permits do not allow citizenship this way. For example, tourist, student, and some other residence permits do not grant the right to apply for citizenship through naturalization. The second way is to obtain citizenship through investment. The most well-known option is purchasing real estate in Turkey valued at a minimum of $400,000, as assessed by a licensed expert with a commitment not to sell it for 3 years. The Tolerance Agency aids in gaining citizenship this way. We've mentioned it on our channel before. Watch one of the videos linked here. Other options consist of depositing $500,000 in Turkish lira into a bank account, buying government bonds, investing in a Turkish company's capital, and other methods. Provided all requirements are fulfilled, the investor and their close family can receive citizenship quickly, usually within 8 to 12 months after the full documentation is submitted. You can also acquire citizenship by marrying a Turkish citizen. If married for 3 years, you can apply through a simplified scheme. Also, if your parents or grandparents are Turkish citizens or ethnic Turks, you can apply for citizenship. You can verify family documents and undergo an easier process for permanent residency or citizenship. Important nuances. Turkey allows dual citizenship, but you should check if your home country recognizes such status. It is crucial to adhere to immigration and tax regulations. You must present proof of no criminal record from Turkey and your home country. If a sham marriage is detected, or if your ties to Turkey do not meet the Migration Services criteria, you may be denied. You can appeal the decision in court, proving real cohabitation or an official's mistake, etc. By planning correctly and meeting all requirements, you can achieve Turkish citizenship.
Now let's discuss how to get Turkish citizenship after residency based on owning property.
Yes, if you live in Turkey under a residence permit granted due to property ownership and fulfill several criteria, you may later submit an application for getting Turkish citizenship. I've already mentioned the main applicant requirements. Remember next thing as well. When you apply for citizenship, you must secure a guarantor in Turkey. A Turkish citizen is required to speak for you, and if he is married, his wife must provide documents proving they have no criminal record. They need to show a stable income and agree to take financial responsibility for you until you get your passport. You need to submit your set of documents to the citizenship office known as Nüfus ve Vatandaşlık İşleri. Reviewing the case can take 1 to 2 years, depending on how busy the agencies are and the applicant's specific situation. If you acquire real estate costing $400,000 in the US as per a licensed appraiser's official valuation, you can apply for Turkish citizenship quickly. You must hold on to the property for at least 3 years after buying it. This condition is necessary to get citizenship. Afterward, you can freely manage the property, including selling it, and you can rent it out immediately after purchase. An undeniable advantage of this program is that citizenship is granted not only to the investor, but also to his immediate family members, spouse, and minor children. The process is expedited much with expensive real estate, usually taking from 8 to 12 months after the full documentation is submitted. Break time, do 0.8. If your property is below $400,000 in the US, that's a crucial point. It provides grounds for obtaining a short-term residence permit and further naturalization after 5 years of residence, but it does not grant the right to expedited citizenship, and it does not cover citizenship for family members. However, if the property is valued above the $400,000 threshold, your entire family can apply for citizenship, and the process is significantly expedited. Another nuance: for the standard 5-year path, continuous residence is important. In total, you should not spend more than the allowed limit outside of Turkey. Typically, this means 6 months over 5 years, but the rules can vary and depend on why you were absent. The residence permit type for real estate, work, etc. can be considered in the general accumulation of time if there were no violations or if your residency period in Turkey was not interrupted. It's most secure when you hold a short-term residence permit based on ownership or other long-term categories without frequent changes. Owning property and a long-term residency permit is a solid argument, but citizenship isn't given automatically. Each case undergoes a check for compliance with legal requirements like income, language, and no violations. Turkey recognizes dual citizenship, but it's important to find out if your country allows it. If not, you may have to renounce your previous citizenship. Whether the cost is up to $400,000 or above, it is crucial to execute transactions correctly, adhere to immigration rules, and avoid serious legal issues. The Tolerance Company can help you swiftly acquire Turkish citizenship by purchasing property through the investment program.
And what if you decide not to get citizenship? Turkey has a permanent residence permit available. How can you acquire it?
Indeed, after 8 years of lawful residence in Turkey with different types of residence permits, you may qualify for a long-term permanent residency. Some also refer to it as permanent residency. This is a permanent residency type that lets you live in Turkey indefinitely without needing regular renewals, unlike short-term permits, usually valid for 1 or 2 years. You retain your citizenship of your country and do not automatically become a citizen of Turkey. In order to be eligible for this document, you need to live in Turkey continuously for 8 years, extending your residence permit each time. During this period, short trips abroad are allowed, but their total duration must not exceed the established limit. Usually, you can be away for 6 to 12 months in total over the 8 years, but the exact limits can be specified by the Migration Office. Individuals who have violated immigration laws or have legal issues may be denied the issuance of such documents. The applicant must have a regular and legal source of income to support themselves and their family, as well as a Turkish bank account with active transactions. I should mention that applicants under 18 cannot obtain permanent residency due to the lack of a bank account confirmation. The applicant should not have received help from government social programs in the past 3 years. When submitting your documents, you must have a current insurance policy. Indefinite residency has its ups and downs. The advantage is that there is no need to renew the residence permit annually, which saves time, effort, and money. You maintain all fundamental rights of a resident, including renting housing, opening bank accounts, and having the option for multiple entries and exits. The downsides are that you do not have voting rights and some other rights that are only available to Turkish citizens. It is very important that if you leave the country for a long period exceeding the established limit, your long-term residence permits may be revoked. Your citizenship is secure and cannot be taken away. Naturalization provides you with complete legal status as a citizen of Turkey, including the right to vote, engage in elections, and easier conditions for employment and business, social benefits, etc. Tolerance Homes agency helps clients get residence permits or citizenship via property purchases.
You have just watched the third segment of answers to common questions regarding Turkish residence permits. Sergey Volchenkov will answer more client inquiries in upcoming videos. You can add your question in the comments under this video. And feel free to contact Tolerance using these details. Leave an application. With almost 25 years of experience, Tolerance Homes understands nearly everything about life, real estate, and moving to Turkey.